I was just saying to my staff on the way in, it's like this brings back so many vivid memories for me and my own family, having lost Jordan to unnecessary gun violence in November 2012, Black Friday, simply because he was black and playing loud music in his car. And so here we are again today, here for the loss of another black young man in our community.
August 13th, 2026. A packed room in Atlanta. Christine and Elmore Wansley stand at a podium. On one side of them, attorney Ben Crump. On the other, Reverend Al Sharpton. Beside him, a sitting member of Congress. Christine's voice breaks as she says it out loud for the first time to a national audience. In 6 days, her son would have turned 19.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for having us, for platforming our son's story. As many of you know, his 19th birthday is next Wednesday. And it's, as the days gets closer, it's definitely getting harder. That realization is really sinking in. That we don't have our son physically here anymore. And I think a lot of people have forgotten. Only thing we want to know is what happened. That's all we want to know, is what happened to our son. Because many parents out there, you still have your children. You still can hug them. You still can call them. You still can celebrate their life with them. And we do not have that anymore. Our lives have forever changed. This new normal is something I would never wish on anyone.
In 6 days, her son would have turned 19. Instead, she's standing here, still asking the only question that's mattered to her since July 4th. What happened to Nolan Wells? Welcome to Crime Beyond the Shadows. To my loyal subscribers, I pray your families remain safe and protected wherever they are. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Here, we bring you the untold details of true crime cases, the facts others leave behind, and the truths that deserve to be heard. If you've watched our earlier coverage of this case, welcome back. Today isn't the origin story. Today is about what's happening right now. A family, a legal team, and members of Congress, all pushing for one thing before a birthday that shouldn't have to happen this way. 30 seconds for anyone just joining us. Nolan Wells was 18. On July 4th, he went to Horn Island, Mississippi with a group of friends. He never came back with them. His body was found 2 days later. Police said no evidence of foul play. His family's independent autopsy said undetermined. That's the case. Now let's talk about where it stands today. 4 things you need to know before we go further. 1. For over a month, the family's legal team has been waiting on a promise that still hasn't been kept. 2. This case has already put 3 people behind bars, and none of them ever met Nolan Wells. 3. This week, the Congressional Black Caucus sent a formal letter to the FBI and the Attorney General. 4. In days, this family will mark a birthday with an empty seat at the table. Stay with me. This is where the case stands right now, and it's moving faster than most people realize. By mid-July, Ben Crump had entered the case. His approach wasn't public pressure first. It was procedural. His team pushed for something specific, a joint inspection of Nolan's cell phone, conducted together with investigators from the Jackson County District Attorney's Office. Both sides reportedly agreed to this arrangement on July 15th. That was over a month ago. As of this video, that joint inspection still hasn't happened. This isn't a claim from a comment section or a theory from social media. This is a documented gap between what investigators agreed to and what's actually taken place. And it's one of the clearest, most concrete reasons Nolan's family says they've lost patience with the local process. Remember, the only official word this family has ever received about how their son died is one word: undetermined. Not accidental, not confirmed as anything. A medical and legal gray zone that a phone inspection might have helped close a month ago, if it had happened. Every week that passes without it is a week Nolan's family spends with more questions than answers. And in Mississippi's investigative process, this family found itself with fewer tools to demand an answer than most people realize. That's part of why what happened next, the turn toward Washington, became almost inevitable. Ask yourself, if you'd been promised a specific step toward answers, and a month later it still hadn't happened, would you still be waiting patiently, or would you already be looking for someone else to call? While the family waited on that inspection, the case exploded far beyond Mississippi. Online, theories multiplied by the day. A video claiming to contain cleaned-up audio from a phone call made that night went viral, the person who posted it alleging it revealed something incriminating. No investigator has verified those claims, but the consequences were real, and they didn't land on anyone actually responsible for deciding this case. People connected to the friend group, some of them still minors, say they've received threats serious enough that they can't return to school. 2 were reportedly turned away from a local restaurant. Families targeted at home and online. Here's what actually happened next. Arrests. Not of anyone connected to Nolan's death, but of 3 people, in 3 different states, none of them connected to Nolan, his family, or the investigation in any way. One is accused of directly threatening a witness. Another allegedly placed bomb threats to a county clerk's office, calling more than 20 times in 8 minutes, telling staff, "The clock is ticking." Not one of these 3 people ever met Nolan Wells. Sit with that for a second. In a case that's still waiting on its most basic answers, the only people who've faced criminal charges so far are strangers who inserted themselves into a tragedy that wasn't theirs.
A man in southwest suburban Berwyn was arrested for making death threats against people who were involved in this unresolved case. Now our investigative reporter Chuck Gowdy in studio revealing that Berwyn man's violent history and has the first photos of this accused threat maker. Chuck.
You do, Allison. Stephan, the Berwyn man's name is Edward James Porter, now facing federal charges in the Nolan Wells case for allegedly threatening to murder witnesses and their family members. 33-year-old Porter is being transferred by U.S. Marshals to the courthouse down in Mississippi. Our investigation of Porter's past finds a Metro Chicago man repeatedly described by authorities as a threat to safety because of his numerous arrests for violence and saying he was going to shoot people.
Village pump stopped working. We're sinking.
The heat index was a broiling 105 during last month's July 4th holiday weekend here on Horn Island, Mississippi. 18-year-old Nolan Wells had taken a short boat ride with friends, but didn't return home with them. His body found 2 days later, face down in the water. With no resolution to what happened, his family and national civil rights leaders have raised questions of a racially motivated killing. And then, as NBC Chicago's investigative team reported last week, a man living in this west suburban Berwyn apartment was arrested for allegedly making death threats to witnesses in the case, to kill them, anyone in their homes, and any cops. Porter is also accused by federal prosecutors of threatening to cut up one witness and stuff the remains into a suitcase. Now, NBC5 Investigates uncovers the first photo of Edward Porter. This picture is from the Cook County Jail in 2025, but records we've obtained show Porter's criminal history began years earlier, in 2011, to follow for domestic violence, breaking court orders of protection, and theft. A city and suburban drifter with no known ties to Nolan Wells or Mississippi. Porter had an Illinois firearm owner card and a handgun that were taken from him when police say he threatened his ex-girlfriend, quote, "I'm going to shoot you." Charges later dropped when she stood down, and it's not known whether the FOID card and gun were returned to Porter. But now, after numerous gun violence, assault, and threat charges by Chicago authorities, most later dropped because the victim wouldn't testify, Porter is facing his first federal charges, accused of inserting himself for unstated reasons into this death mystery in Mississippi. The case against him, according to U.S. investigators, has a trail of cell phone calls from Porter to Mississippi witnesses and IP addresses, all linking back to him and this Berwyn apartment where he was living.
Against that backdrop, a stalled phone inspection, a case hijacked by online speculation, real threats against real bystanders, Crump made his next move. Not another statement to local press. A national platform, the National Association of Black Journalists Convention, Atlanta, August 13th.
I want to keep an open mind. I know there have been several attacks on us just for asking questions, and it's okay. I mean, when you think about Mississippi, they attacked all my heroes. The governor's predecessors, they attack, Ida B. Wells, Medgar Evers, my personal hero, Thurgood Marshall, Dr. Martin Luther King, for saying that we're going to stand up for black life and black humanity and the right to black people to have the Constitution applied to them as American citizens. So I'm unapologetic in my defense of black life, black liberty, and black humanity. God has a calling on all our lives, and when you figure out what that calling is, you don't second guess it. You say, God, I know why I'm put on this earth, to be there to stand up for our people in times when they have nobody else to stand up for them. And so whether it's Mississippi or anywhere else in the deep South, or as Malcolm X said, I heard they discriminate against black people in the South. He said, I guess my definition of the South would be anything beneath the Canadian border, because last time I checked, they discriminate against black people all across America. And so what we're saying is we are open-minded. We want to trust them, but we can't be naive. We have to verify everything, as Attorney Hurt said. Whatever conclusions you come to, we want the methodology. Whatever investigation you're doing, we want to know that it's the same investigation that you would do with your child, not treat Nolan any differently. That's what we're trying to do. That's all we're asking.
Representative Lucy McBath didn't just show up to stand beside the family. She announced that the Congressional Black Caucus had sent a formal letter to Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Kash Patel, asking the Department of Justice to determine whether a federal investigation into Nolan's death is warranted.
As a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, I'm the second vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We are demanding a full federal investigation. Kash Patel were demanding a full federal investigation as to what has actually happened to Nolan Wells. We want to make sure that every stone is unturned, because his life matters. All of our children's and our families' lives matter. And we must fight back. We must stand up, and we must demand accountability for this family's loss. We cannot turn a blind eye to what continues to happen again and again and again. That's the reason why I ran for Congress, to make sure that we continue to put a face on what's happening to our families and our communities every single day. We must say Nolan's name.
Amen.
Say his name. Lift his name. And as the national black journalists of this country, you have the ability to be able to lift this story and not let it die. We see over and over again these kinds of tragedies in our communities that continue to happen. And they make it to CNN. They make it to MSN Now. They make it to our local news for maybe 30 days, if that. And then the stories are gone. And the carnage is left with the families and the communities that have lost someone that they love. So I thank the National Black Journalists. Thank you for lifting this family story. Do not let it die. Continue to say his name. Continue to tell his story, because they deserve justice, and it matters. It mattered for me. It mattered for Trayvon. It mattered for Eric Brown. It matters for all of our loved ones that we have lost.
Her words at the podium. We want to make sure that every stone is turned because his life matters. That's no longer a family and their attorney asking questions. That's the federal government being asked, on the record, to decide whether this case needs its intervention. Sharpton went further, raising the possibility of civil court if the criminal process kept stalling. You can't make this make sense, he told the room. Two paths, both aimed at the same wall. A family that still doesn't have an answer, more than 6 weeks after their son disappeared. Here's why the timing of that Atlanta press conference wasn't a coincidence. Nolan Wells was born August 19, 2007. When Crump stood at that podium, his 19th birthday was 6 days away. Crump said it plainly to the room. This August 19th would be unlike any other this family has had in 19 years. Christine has said, in her own words, that as the date gets closer, it's gotten harder to carry, not easier. That realization is really sinking in, that we don't have our son physically here anymore. She said, I think a lot of people have forgotten. Instead of a birthday party, the family is planning a prayer rally in Mississippi and has asked supporters across the country to join a national day of prayer in Nolan's honor. A vigil is scheduled on Martha's Vineyard. This isn't a legal deadline. No court has set August 19th as a date by which anyone must act. It's a deadline set by grief, a family trying to get some form of movement, some acknowledgement, before they have to face a birthday with an empty chair at the table. As of today, no cause of death has been confirmed. No one has been charged in connection with Nolan's death. The joint cell phone inspection, promised over a month ago, still hasn't taken place. And the Department of Justice hasn't said whether it will open a federal investigation. What has happened is a family that refused to accept one word as the end of the story, undetermined, and took that fight from a county investigator's office all the way to Congress and the FBI. Whether that fight gets them an answer before August 19th is still an open question. Here's what I want to know from you. Do you think a federal investigation actually gets this family closer to the truth, or does asking Washington just add another layer of waiting? And with 6 days left before his birthday, what do you think needs to happen first? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. If you've been with this case since our first video, let me know what you think has changed since then. And if you want to be here the moment there's a real update, an arrest, a federal decision, anything, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. In 6 days, a mother in Mississippi will spend her son's birthday still waiting for someone to tell her why. This has been Crime Beyond Shadows.